Hello. Oh, hello. I can hear myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Sweet Sage. Welcome in. We are very excited to talk about mental health today. We're going to be getting into a little bit about mental health for streamers. I have an amazing set of panelists here today. We're going to be going through who's here. Like I said, my name is Sweet Sage. It's nice to meet you. Going to be moderating the panel today. And we can start with left all the way over to right. Just introducing yourself so you can go first.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Ingrid Alcad, and I'm a VTuber, and I play gacha games. I don't know if any of you guys play gacha games. Can we have a heads up? Oh, yeah, my people. Let's go. I hope everyone will win their 50-50 over this weekend. So, yeah, very, very super happy to meet you guys. And, yeah, we'll go give a word to my colleagues on the panel.
Well, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name's Ed, otherwise known as Psyculturist. I am a psychologist, and I do deep dives into anime and video games. At the moment, I think we're working through Deltarune, Omori, and No, I'm Not a Human. So it's a wide variety of choice there.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Euro Brady. I go by Euro Brady or Brady, and I'm a clinical director, therapist, and also do psychological deep dives of games. I just finished up Omori, and next I'm going to be playing Doki Doki Literature Club.
And then we also have Sidere, who is joining us from home. Hi.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? All
Yay,
good?
amazing. I can. Hi, everybody. I'm Sidere. I'm a research psychologist and I stream psychology stuff. I do science communication content.
You are so adorable. I'm so sorry. I'm so focused. You look amazing. I'm so happy that you're joining us. So we are going to get into, I think, the nitty gritty. Let me see what the first question that we had first. Oh yeah, we're gonna start with the challenges that streamers face in regards to their mental health. If this will go to the next one, yes. So yeah, so the impact that streaming has on streamers' mental health. So does anyone want to tackle this first, Psyculturists?
Sure, I'll jump on this. One of the big things that comes on is people always love to go ahead and talk about the negative effects, right? But there are positive effects that also come through with it. So let's list each one out. When it comes to the positive effects, you can build a community, a support network that's genuinely there for you and helps you grow. Another aspect of this is, I don't know about y'all, but streaming has actually helped me stay organized and gotten me into some time management skills, because now I have a whole community that's keeping me on task and scheduled. But aside from that, there's also the big risk of always being on, right? Always having that mentality of, how can I make my next stream better? What can I go ahead and to do to, beat the algorithm, whether it's on Twitch or other platforms? And then how can I get my content noticed? Always having that on effect is very troublesome, right? Because ultimately, when are you getting that break for yourself, and how are you practicing self-care? How are you being able to go ahead and go home and disconnect? Or when you go from your streaming room or wherever you stream onto a safe space, where are you able to go ahead and disconnect and have that time for you? And what does that look like for you? And that's a big conversation I know Brady and I have talked endlessly about, is where do we draw these lines, and what does healthy boundaries and healthy self-care look like when we're streaming? Again, that's one of the biggest aspects of it, because ultimately you do not want to go into burnout. And because of always being on, I don't know, how many of y'all are streamers? Raise your hands. How many of you guys look at numbers and it affects you, the fluctuation, whether it goes down or up?
Every single day.
Every single day, right.
All day.
And that's the thing, is if we're not able to go ahead and separate, the value that we give other people to go ahead and impact us versus our own internal value, then we're giving other people the ability to go ahead and also impact us in that way. So having those healthy boundaries, having that self-care, and being able to go ahead and have good self-esteem. Remember, there are support networks out there, the mental health professionals, in your area that are there for you to help you establish that, because ultimately we don't want to be at a risk of having other people hurt us.
Yeah, I think for me, a big challenge is kind of maintaining your self-worth, because it's very easy to associate that with your work. And at a regular job, you'll get sort of positive and negative reinforcement based on how you do from your boss or your company. But now let's multiply that psychological space to dozens, hundreds, thousands of people who, it's not just things that you're doing and how you're sort of performing at a job, like it's your personality that's out there. And so when you get a negative reinforcer, like less people are showing up to streams, your subs are dropping off, it feels like a personal rejection because it's like, was I not charismatic enough? Am I not being funny enough? And you can get down to the minute stats telling you just how bad you're doing. So it's something that you really have to pay good mind to, similar to when you get positive reinforcement and you see something that works, you tell a funny joke. Maybe you're not really a joke teller, but you see that it works, and now every stream you're trying to tell more jokes, and you can get addicted to that to the point of kind of losing authenticity because now you're chasing what works, what doesn't, and I think it's like really important early on to separate like what is my personal value from how am I performing online.
And really quick, just to add to that, we're about to go into some psychoeducational. Hope you don't mind. It's going to get nerdy. There's a very famous triangle that psychologists love to throw out there, and it's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And in that hierarchy, there's an aspect for self and belonging, right? But beneath all of that, there's support of employment, support of health, and even support of housing, shelter, if you're able to go out and eat, so on and so forth. So what happens, and I guess I'll throw this back to you, when you're a streamer, right, and it is your full-time career, and now it's affecting the bottom needs of, your hierarchy. Well, then it's going to start impacting you altogether, right? So then you put more value on the views, and you're not able to go and make that distinction. So again, mental health is a priority, and it should be talked about, and it's often stigmatized, and individuals are afraid of speaking about their struggles, or afraid about speaking about down days, or taking even breaks, because how many have heard if you take a break, the algorithm will punish you, or if you take a break, yes.
Well, exactly that, because at your regular job, you get to go home. You get to go home and not think about work, even though we all still do sometimes. And unfortunately, like the way that platforms grow and algorithms, they incentivize consistency and showing up even when it feels terrible to do it. And so your content can suffer, your community can suffer, and you can suffer.
Yeah. I also want to see what Cideray wants to add to that. Hi again. Oh my gosh. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I think kind of riffing off the idea of feedback a little bit. I think sometimes it's possible for some streamers that their community might kind of become part of a collective identity that they hold. So sometimes people might feel responsible for like the actions of their community, or they might be really impacted by some of the things that people in the community say. And that can be good or bad things. Sometimes it's completely neutral things, but they just kind of like trigger our own personal insecurities, if that makes sense. So I think, that constant, like not only textual feedback from the chat, like sometimes someone can say something that upsets you and you weren't expecting it. But also kind of like more broadly, like for example, in VTubing communities, we get a lot of fan art, right? So how do you manage it if somebody makes fan art that you aren't super happy with? Things like that can have a big impact on streamers' mental health.
That is actually such a good segue into the next question, I think. The next question was about parasocial bonds and emotional entanglement. And so I think what you have written here was the healthy versus unhealthy dynamics and about protecting your identity and your boundaries. Do you want to add on to that, talking about like boundaries with, since we have you on screen, do you want to add on to like what would be like unhealthy, healthy dynamics, and then also how you can, I guess, like have solid boundaries when you are a streamer? Because I think that's something that a lot of people kind of struggle with as they're going through. I had issues with that when I first started streaming years ago. So I guess any advice or things that you would like to talk about in regards to boundaries and unhealthy dynamics?
Yeah, so it's funny because like the boundaries thing, I think I've not really been streaming that long, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. So I'm still kind of like learning the boundaries myself. But parasocial interactions, I do think about a lot because I'm a social psychologist by training. Like I've got a PhD in social psychology, so I think a lot about how people in communities interact with the streamer, because like streaming is kind of perfectly set up for parasocial interaction. So for anyone that doesn't know, a parasocial interaction is basically, you can kind of think of it like a one-way friendship. So a person will think that they are friends with like an entertainer, a content creator, a streamer, sometimes even like fictional characters, but it isn't reciprocated. Or maybe they misinterpret kind of like broad interactions with the whole community as being individualized. At the most extreme end, it can be considered not. I do think at the most extreme end, it can sometimes be considered a delusion, but that's really really rare for it to like have like a kind of clinical aspect of it. Most of the time, it's more like kind of, I would say harmless, but it's not harmless in the sense that it can affect the streamer in so many ways. But to be honest, the mental health side of things is less my expertise, and I would rather pass it back to the rest of the panel.
Yeah. So I think, actually, Angry Owlcat, do you want to?
Yeah, of course. So about the boundaries, number one is communicate the boundaries, because if your community doesn't know them, of course they may broke them by accident without even realizing it. So you have the rules in the about section. You can like list some of the boundaries. Of course you cannot list every single situation that can happen on stream. So in that case you have your second wall of support, who are your mods, your moderators. So try out your streams to talk to your mods, tell them, okay guys, I think that situation was kind of weird, I didn't really like it, what do you think, am I overreacting or is it fine? And communicate with them so that they will protect you and your community in the future if there will be uncomfortable situations. So you basically are growing not only from the common sense rules, like for example, no discussing like religious, political stuff on streams, but also from like error and mistakes and feeling like your own boundaries on streams. And about the parasocial thing, I would like to add, myself, I usually put my streams like a party. If you're going to a party with a lot of strangers, you probably are not best friends with every single one of them, but you're polite, kind, welcoming, I hope, but it doesn't mean you cannot make best friends with those people. It just takes time, like in real life, because they learn more about you, you learn more about them, and after several streams, you'll also already see some of the names pop out more often, and you're like, oh, I know you, I know this and this fact about you, and it feels more like a real friendship in the future. And moreover, you can kind of hang out at the IRL events in the future, like for example, TwitchCon, which will even make the bond stronger. However, there is one thing that I would say, so in this case, it kind of makes it more realistic and less parasocial, right? Because we're trying to avoid this risk. But I would say that probably parasocial viewers would be more eager to donate money. And we all know that streaming overall is a pretty expensive hobby. It can be. It doesn't have to, but it can be, because you have to buy games, you have to buy the equipment, you have to buy different subscriptions for the non-copyrighted music, etc., etc., etc. And there is a trick that some of the streamers, they see like a short-term gain in building a parasocial relationship with their community because they get a higher level of donations. But you always have to think about, are those people able to afford those donations? Are they comfortable with it? What if they're giving like their rent, thus rent money? So always make sure to say that donations are not compulsory, that what they give back, do you give back for those donations? Like for example, it's subscriptions, these are emotes, maybe some gift box, so that to manage their expectation, what they're getting in return, because you don't know what they actually expect you after they give you money. That's also a very important thing to consider. And what they will do if they don't get what they think they want in return. Thank you.
Very
You
well
ate
said.
that. Yeah, you ate that, actually. Oh, I was going to ask, do you have anything to add, either of you?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and add something. I'm about to use a lot of P words in succession. I hope you're ready for this.
I'm prepared.
So right off the bat, whenever we think about parasocial relationships, we always think about the extremity, right? Of individuals crossing boundaries and, pushing their beliefs onto you as a content creator. There is a specific term for it, right? And my community absolutely hates the fact that I use this word, but it completely makes sense. It's propinquitous parataxic distortion of a parasocial relationship. So all three words essentially means propinquity is how we attach to people. Naturally, we're going to go ahead and attach to one another. It doesn't matter if you, for example, if you have someone that you work with and you absolutely dislike them, if one day they were to go ahead and vanish from your life, guess what? There's a hole there and you're going to feel it. You're going to be like, okay, they're gone. You might feel relief at first, but then you might say, wait, okay, they brought something, or you know what, now who do I have to talk, badly about in some capacity? In a positive and or negative way, you still feel the ramifications of it, right? So you will build some sort of relationship with an individual. Now, the parataxic distortion is when we start putting someone on a pedestal, essentially, when we keep elevating someone up into a portion where we think that, they're untouchable, or everything that they do is, godly or beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? In the parasociality, when all three elements come together, that's prone to a disaster. And that's why, as content creators and as streamers, we have to be advocates for ourselves, and we have to be the first ones that call out any form of, boundary crossing that is happening. I'll share this. I had a viewer a long time ago that was going into that level of a distortion, where they thought because they were sending subs and money and everything that they could control the content that was being displayed. And ultimately, just putting a boundary immediately, it was, hey, are you the streamer or am I the streamer? Ooh. Do you want to stream? Because you can stream on your own. You have the capacity to do your own content if that's how you want it done, right? I know that sometimes as content creators, we all have personalities. We all have different ways of approaching things. But ultimately, if you don't put that fine line and that boundary, people will always find a way to cross over just slightly until all of a sudden that boundary is erased. So please take care of yourself, and please keep practicing that self-care.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something brief to that, which is like the actual boundary setting. There's a communication style called assertive compassion, which is, this is going to sound so therapy-brained, but it's a strengths-based thing, okay? You're trying to tell someone, I want you to stop doing that, but leading with like something that recognizes a strength, like you're such an active member of the community and you're going too far here, right? So you're being assertive, you're setting a boundary with someone, but you're also recognizing that there is a parasocial bond here. And if you immediately sort of reject them for that, you have like, there's a potential to rupture what may be an unstable relationship to begin with.
See, this is going to sound like very psychology coded, because my big approach to this is, well, how does that make you feel? Why do you think that you have control?
It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Exactly, right? Because ultimately, just laying that out there, open-ended questions are your friends to getting to the bottom of anything with communication.
Yeah. I'm so happy I get to hear y'all talk about this. I'm just no, y'all are making such great points. And I think it's something that unfortunately all streamers are going to relate to at some point in time. And I'm very happy to hear y'all speaking about these things. The next thing is, oh my gosh, burnout. So compassion fatigue and content creation burnout. And I think the fatigue actually fits really well with the conversation we were just having when it comes to compassion fatigue, because that can be another way that you're having unhealthy dynamics with your community. But how to reset after heavy streams, what are the pillars of good mental health is kind of the focus of those. And Ingrid Alcat, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think we can start with the pillars of the good mental health. As in any career, you have to think about 3 buckets every single day. So bucket number 1 is your physical health. Did you eat? Did you sleep today?
Oh, snap.
Did you at least touch some grass? Maybe, I don't know, did some physical stuff. You don't really have to go to the gym, because I understand gym subscriptions can be pretty expensive. But at least, those stuff, I think they're called dumbbells. You can get them on Amazon. You don't need a lot of space around you. Do a couple of them. That will be enough. At least something so that you can put a check mark on the first bucket. Bucket number 2 is socialization. And probably if you're a streamer, you already socialize a lot, I assume. But I would suggest try to get out of that bubble at least a little bit. Maybe have a chat with your family, maybe with your friends, maybe with your mods on Discord, so that you will have some sort of socialization outside of your chat. It will help you to get the outside perspective. Also, maybe sometimes you want to nag about something that happened on the stream, but you don't want to do that in front of your community. So it's always nice to have that second space. And the third one is actually achievements. I don't know about you guys. Do you have such days where you're feeling oh, I didn't achieve much overall. What am I doing with my life? So usually in those cases, it's a very cool trick to do at least a small achievement. For example, you're thinking, okay, maybe, what is my goal for today? I want to like clean up my room, or like wash the dishes, or I don't know, prepare this thing for the stream. It doesn't have to be a huge achievement. Don't to do like, oh, I have to get 100 followers on Twitch today immediately, because it can be tricky. So when you're doing at least a small achievement daily, it really helps to boost your confidence, because you're like, okay, I can achieve this. It means I can achieve more and more and more and more. And you don't go into like this dark room in your brain where you start to think, oh no, I didn't do anything. So yeah, I hope like those 3 buckets can help. At least they help me a lot. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Question, how many of y'all know the difference between compassion fatigue and burnout? Okay, good. I see a couple hands. So compassion fatigue in a big way is when you're over empathizing with situations, your community, the content that you're doing, and it's taking that out of you. As opposed to burnout, if you've had a bad boss, you've been in a bad work environment, and you're working nonstop, and there is no empathy in some of these ways, right? You just feel like, hey, you know what? I don't have the energy or the effort to go to work the next day, right? There's a clear line inside of that. Compassion fatigue is a lot more of how we connect with others. One of the big things, and you're touching on it, is like, what do we do to go ahead and practice that self-care? I heard some of y'all were gacha enjoyers, right? And I know that within a safe limit, I'm not gonna say like become addicted. Please no, right? Self-care and forms of self-care can come in any way, shape, or form. I'll be honest, I pull Pokemon cards, right?
Oh.
That's
I got excited.
that's my go-to.
Yeah,
Right before we came up here, they were both like, "Where's the tabletop area? Like, did you see it coming in? You have to show me."
That's my go-to form of self-care. And the reason for that is a lot of people like to go and showcase, well, if you do self-care, magically everything will get better, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It takes a step from you to understanding yourself, your body, and your mind. Whenever it comes to self-care, for example, I'll do that, right? I'll go ahead and I'll pull some Pokemon cards after stream, because I'm like, okay, that was a bad stream or a good stream. Guess what? I pulled Mega Lucario, one of the golden ones from the new set, and I was like a little kid. I was like, yay, I went and walked my dog afterwards. Phenomenal way of going ahead and practicing that self-care. And then coming back and literally writing. Writing is one of the biggest things about how you feel, what your thoughts are, how your day went, even if it's voice recording. Ask yourself these questions, right? How are you feeling, and where do you plan on going, and how was your day? As you keep a voice journal, it's one of those things where you can go back and listen to and reflect and start that process of healing, right? And of practicing that compassion and not going into compassion fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, burnout's definitely a huge risk. I mean, I can speak at least for myself and Ed that like we're both still in our clinical careers, and Cider as well. We're doing 40 hours of work at our regular clinical jobs, and then also 20 to 30 doing content creation weeknights and weekends. And like at some point you do have to just kind of be honest with yourself that you can't maintain it all the time. If it looks more like doing 12-hour streams for you, be honest with yourself. When you need a break, you need a break. I know the like online world incentivizes like showing up for it anyways, but like I said, your content's gonna suffer, the community's gonna suffer. Even if you are a little more sporadic, but you're showing up with a lot of energy and a lot of passion for that, right. Things will recover. Like you'll build a good community that's willing to kind of get invested in your own well-being as well.
So, well, this is something that I've noticed, and I've had a lot of friends that are content creators also highlight this, which is how many individuals actually do the content that they love to do versus they're chasing what their community or what is currently hype, right? What people think that is the most popular thing out there. And what I've seen is, and especially from a lot of my friends, is the moment that they start chasing trends is the moment that the compassion fatigue starts becoming real, as opposed to them doing something that they're passionate about and that they truly love to go ahead and do. I've been analyzing anime and video games for like 5 years, never once burnt out, because it's something that I love to go ahead and do. But the moment I tried to go ahead and jump into something completely out of my segment, within the first week, I was like, how does everyone do this? Like, my gosh.
Yeah. I wanted to actually ask each of you, what is something that you do that, you already kind of mentioned Pokemon cards, but something that you do to kind of like decompress yourself like after stream. So like personally, each of you, and actually we can start with Saturday up there. So what's like one thing that you do after after stream to kind of decompress, to relax yourself, to get kind of like focused and align yourself back?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I would say is I'm neurodivergent, and I know that a lot of other streamers are too. So to be honest, the first thing that I always do after stream is like have some kind of physical reminder to do a self-care ritual, because otherwise I will forget. Like I'm the type of person where like I will forget to eat and take my medication and drink water unless I have reminders. So my first big tip would be to set yourself a reminder that will appear after you're done streaming. To be honest, I normally just go away from the stream and do something completely different. So
Real.
for me, my streams are often kind of like, they're science based a lot of the time. So often we'll either be talking about science, or we'll be even reading like journal articles on stream. And it uses a lot of brain power. So my self-care ritual is to like go away and do something that basically doesn't use any brain power whatsoever. So it might be like, getting away, first of all, get away from the PC. Like you need to spend some time away. Like it's really tempting to like raid into somebody else and to just stay there forever and just keep hanging out in their stream. Like I love to do that when I can, but a lot of the time I realize I'm just too tired to really be actually paying attention to their stream. So first things first, I just shut down the PC. And then after that, to be honest, I'll normally actually go out. I'll go for a walk, which I'm very lucky to live in a very safe area that I can do that. But yeah, like even if it's like 10 p.m., I'll just go out for a walk, even if it's just a short one, just like 5-10 minutes, just around a really safe, like well-lit area. I'll make sure to do that. Yeah.
That sounds so nice, actually. I should probably start walking after stream. Anybody else, would you like to talk about what you do after stream?
Well, I also go outside. I'm pretty lucky because I live in Japan, so it is very, very safe there, and there are a lot of convenience. Whatever time you go out, you can just grab an onigiri, cup noodle, and just a little bit decompress after everything. But sometimes I'm just so tired after giving away all the energy that I had that I just go to sleep. I just immediately go to sleep.
So, I turn off my streamer brain and I go into like a lurker mode. And I love seeing a lot of the affiliate streamers and like a lot of the individuals that might only have 1 or 2 viewers. I'm walking my dog, it's the first thing that I do, because you'll hear him whimpering, trying to rush onto streams at times. And it's a whole chaos thing with him there. So I'll take him on a walk. And then oftentimes a lot of people are really excited whenever there's like one more individual there, and I'm hype, I'm there with them, and just like, once you turn off your streamer brain and you're into like a viewer mode and you're genuinely appreciating what other people have to do, you learn so much from that as well. And for me, that's my self-care. It's walking my dog, looking at some other streamers out there and seeing what they're doing, and of course, being positive about it. And then afterwards, going to bed. I have to wake up early.
Yeah, I go and hang out with my cats, but I think a big thing is also getting some physical and mental distance from your stream or your online world. So I don't recommend going immediately to your stream summary and seeing exactly how it did, because again, you're getting like that immediate positive or negative reinforcement, and I do think that having some separation from that is really important. If you're doing like a lot of really cerebral stuff on stream, like really deep dives and analysis and commentary, go do something physical while your mental energy recharges, I think getting some physical and mental distance, whatever that looks like for you, is what I would do.
I think there's been a couple of times during my career, very early on, I think I check my stats maybe like once a week, if that, I'm not gonna lie, because very early on, I would have a really good stream. I had so much fun, super high energy. Right after stream, I would check my summary, and it's like, oh, it's a lot lower than it used to be. And I'm sitting there like, oh, crap, was it a good stream? Like, I thought it was so fun. Like, I had a great time, and then it kind of puts like a bummer. And so it happens to everybody. It's very normal, but I think that's a great point to bring up, is I definitely check my stats maybe like once a week, because you don't need to know every single time. So if you can't handle that mentally to like go and see every single time because you're going to overanalyze yourself or overanalyze your stream or like how you were speaking to people. It's probably not the best. I do have friends that can do that though, and they're like, oh, that's fine. I'm on to the next one. This is what I'm about to do the next time. I'm like, oh, that's great. I can't do that.
But it's such a perfect point because if you have one active chatter in your stream and you had a great time with them and you're like, you know, over the moon about that, and then you go and look at your stats, it can immediately crash that good feeling.
Yep.
And one is very experiential, and the other one is just like, I don't know, a metric, right? That doesn't tell a good story about whether that was a good stream. Like you may have just made one or two people's entire day or entire evening, and like, yeah, that negative reinforcement can really work against you.
100%. So I guess I want to move on. Let me use my little clicker over here. We're going to go to best practice for boundaries, separating online versus personal self, which is very, very important, especially in this world now where everyone's doing a lot of like IRL content. So I think things start to bleed into each other a little bit more. So I would love to hear what you all have to say about that. And we can start with Saturday as well.
Yeah, so being a VTuber is kind of interesting in a way because we kind of have, to some extent, like an enforced boundary. In some ways, that's quite helpful, and in other ways, it can actually kind of make it more difficult because sometimes, so it makes it easier in the sense of like, you know, when I'm on stream, I am this, hello, what you're seeing right now. And then obviously, you know, I shut down my PC and I go away and I'm like a person. But sometimes it's really difficult to know how much that is a persona and how much is actually me. And I'm sure that this is kind of like something that a lot of streamers will experience, right? But what I've been kind of experiencing the longer that I've been VTubing is that like it started off as a separate persona and they're kind of merging together now. So it's becoming more and more difficult to create that boundary. And like I said, I'm still fairly new to streaming, so I'm still trying to learn how best to do that. But I think having some kind of ritual that kind of like starts you going into stream and then takes you out of the stream is probably a really good way to try and enforce those boundaries. And then on top of that, being like really clear about what information you're okay sharing on stream and what information is just like private and you don't want to share with other people. Like if you know what information you want to keep private, then that means that is something just for you, if that makes sense.
One of the big things that I jump into, and I keep clarifying this for any stream that I go on to, is yes, I'm a psychologist, but I'm not your psychologist. Yeah. You know, making that abundantly clear, because there are a lot of individuals that the moment that they see, you know, mental health day or mental health stream, they'll come through and as a content creator, they'll make you their therapist, right? And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There has to be some strict boundaries that are placed there. And with that, you know, so something else that I highlight is the way that I am on stream, because on stream, you know, you get wrapped up in the hype and the moments and whatever the analysis that you're doing. And it's like, the way that I talk on stream is not the way that I talk to my clients, first and foremost. Like, we have to understand that there's a difference in separation inside of that, right? And oftentimes what we're doing on stream, and I know Brady can agree to this, is we're speaking in the, you know, the most common aspect that everyone can understand, right? We try and not use as much clinical terms or anything like that and connect with you all on a one-on-one basis. However, again, on a professional life, we have to keep our professional sense up, and that includes our clients, which includes all the confidentiality, HIPAA, everything that we have to abide by. So once again, making that clear separation of, yes, I am a psychologist, yes, I do stream and analyze, but no, I am not your psychologist. I'm like, you know, we can be your support network, we're here to be your friends, but we're not here to necessarily be here and give you free therapy at the end of the day.
Yeah. Either have anything to add? Brady, would you like to?
Actually, I have to add because I think it's important to be as genuine as possible on your streams, because in that case, you will not like play into the role of a different personalities, and it will be a little bit difficult to switch. But if for some reason, one or another, you decide actually to be a different personality on stream, I think it's very important to have uptime and downtime. So for example, you finish the stream, And after that, maybe don't go on Twitter immediately. Don't go on Discord immediately to answer all your questions. And maybe after some time when you're ready to get into that different personality, then only like have a specific time when you are this Twitch person and when you are a real person. But like overall, from my own experience, I can say that being yourself as much as possible is the easiest way, and kind of like my community knows if they meet me IRL and they meet me on stream, it's going to be a very similar experience.
Something quickly to add to that, because in relating back to compassion fatigue and being able to help out with that, how do you all have your streaming space?
Oh.
That is a big aspect that a lot of individuals seem to glance over. One of the big aspects, and I know Simon and Brady can agree to this, is our senses play such a big role in how we perceive what is happening, right? Stream-wise, environment-wise, mood-wise, so on and so forth. Oftentimes, one of the biggest tricks that I've learned is to literally keep a scented candle, something that allows your brain to process it as a different space than the rest of your room, the rest of wherever you are. And that way your brain can make that distinction between, okay, this is a streaming space, and then you going out and having to do something else. So use your senses towards your advantage, and literally, well, I guess I'll say this. How many of you have a clean streaming space, or how many of you have a dirty streaming space, or cluttered?
Mine's cluttered. They just can't see it.
It's,
It's cluttered behind the camera.
so question for you with that. How's your life going?
Oh, I'm in therapy now. I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I think we all are.
No, but yeah, I did clean my room before I left home, but but I think that's important. And also with you saying that, I was thinking about how my streaming space is also my bedroom, and I don't know if anybody else has like if it's 2 in 1. So having something like that, like a scented candle, sounds so smart to like be able to separate when, okay, this is now, I'm in this streaming mood, blow out the candle, all right, now it's back to my bedroom. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, I have like a bunch of gacha figurines to summon better luck. My Kafka is there. My Fushon.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Bree, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to touch on, like, you had mentioned more and more people are doing IRL streams.
Yeah.
Whether you're a VTuber, whether you're doing IRL, playing games, like you are doing a performance of some kind, right? You're presenting like aspects of your personality. You're sort of dialing up, your humor, your charisma, your intellect for the audience, and just be mindful of what the incentives there are, right? Like it's a very strange balance to find. Like I want people to be invested in me so that they follow me and invest in my channel, but I don't want them to be so invested that it becomes parasocial. And so how are you like keeping that separation healthy? Well, it's something that you just have to pay a lot of attention to. Realize that you are performing for the audience in some way. And do you know that yourself, right? Yes, you should be authentic. You should, not try to chase trends and that sort of thing, unless you're comfortable with what you're doing. I guess the advice I have is know what you're doing and why, right? Yeah. It's up to you to kind of dictate where your channel goes, but I think doing some reflection on what is the purpose of how I set up my stream, what is the purpose of why I kind of title myself in this way, and all of these things. It should be intentional more than reactive, because when it's too reactive, you do end up chasing the incentives of the financial gain, the follower gain, and then you lose control of it.
That is wonderful advice. Okay, and I think that was our last question for today. I think we do have a little bit of time left for Q&A. Ooh, my bad, sorry. We do have a little bit of time left for Q&A, so if anybody had any questions for any of our amazing panelists up here about like mental health, they cannot give you advice. I forgot how y'all phrased it. Hold on, give me a second. Let me look at the specific phrasing. If y'all remember what it was, what the disclaimer was, feel free to call it out. Okay, disclaimer. We are here to drop wisdom, but please talk to a qualified professional before taking any action. Self-care is important, and so is getting expert help when needed. You're not alone, and you totally deserve support. So you can definitely ask any questions, but no, it's not medical advice. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'm going to hand you my mic so you can come ask questions, because I'm not sure if we have an extra one. Feel free. Yep. Oh, wait, is there? Oh, sorry? Oh, there is an extra. Thank you. Also, I love your hair. Sorry, I don't know. I forgot I was on the mic. Okay, but yeah, your hair is beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, that was way louder than I expected. I was wanting to ask Psyculturist, what, obviously streaming is like a very psychologically taxing job. What would you say is like the most important element of mental health for a streamer to kind of be aware of for their own sake, you know, being able to maintain doing the job?
So one of the biggest aspects that I would go ahead and highlight with that is understanding yourself, right? And being comfortable with yourself. Because ultimately, how do you recognize signs of like burnout or signs that you're connecting with other individuals if you're not really sure who you are and what your boundaries are? One of the key conceptualizations of this, just to like highlight it, is ultimately, why are you streaming, right? What is driving you forward? And then where do you see yourself going? So having those 3 questions answered, and then from there establishing your boundaries or your own milestones is probably one of the biggest aspects to do like mental health check-ins. If you're not reaching your first milestone, ask yourself, right? Okay, I haven't met the first milestone. What is going on? Is it me? Is it, you know, so on. There's a lot of questions that will come on a personal basis, but also on an ecological basis. So thinking out externally as well. So having that consistent questioning and having a good support network that can go ahead and help you answer those questions truthfully will help you out. Mental health wise as well, remember to take breaks. It is okay to take breaks. It is okay for you to go ahead and, if you got to take a week, a month, however long off, that is okay, and not feel punished for doing so.
Okay, cool. Can I do a really quick follow-up on that, or should I pass the mic?
Go for it.
Okay, and then as an addition to that, for viewers and chatters that want to help their favorite streamer out with their mental health, what's the best way that we can kind of support you guys in helping you with your mental health?
So one of the big things that I have is like my viewers immediately notice when my energy starts dipping, or they're like, you're on a different mood today. They'll call me out, and I welcome that, right? Sometimes aspects of confrontation, healthy confrontation, are a-okay, right? And being able to say, hey, your stream was a little different, or hey, are you doing okay? Having those open conversations, and you as a streamer inviting that into your community is how you go ahead and establish those safety boundaries for them to go ahead and communicate with you as well.
I will probably add up to this, like my community, they sometimes, when it's 5 hours of stream, 6 hours stream, they're like, Owl, it's been 6 hours, have you slept today? So yeah, those type of little like self-care tips, or hydrate, don't forget, are very, very helpful.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. And then feel free to, anybody, actually right next to you.
Thank you. How can attending an event like this in person affect your mental health, and how do you stop it from adding more pressure or responsibility, or how do you want it to, maybe?
Oh, good.
So the question was, how do you kind of balance the aspect of being in person?
Well, it's much different streaming online and having your viewers versus coming to a place where there's all these streamers and they all have different levels of success, quote unquote. And like, how do you not, just in the same way you don't try to let numbers get to your head, how do you not let something like this get to your head in terms of like comparing yourself, or trying to add more pressure, like, oh, I need to be doing what this person is doing?
So here's the thing. You're not actually in control of every aspect of success in your life, but especially your channel, right? There are so many conditions, from how the algorithm is doing to just whether the topic that you're trying to stream on is popular right now, and everybody is riding a different wave in that sense. And so it's not to say don't compare yourself to people, but I would say try to limit how much of that you do, because you can very easily get into the trap of saying, well, I'm playing that game and they're playing that game. Why are their numbers bigger than mine, right? And thinking that, well, the only difference between me and them is actually me. So I must not just be funny enough, I must not be good enough at this. But you don't know why that person's being successful in that domain and why we're struggling, right? So I would say try not to give yourself more control or assumption of control over how things are going with the channel, and realize, especially coming to an event like this, that it's all just people, right? Like, we're all on similar playing fields in terms of like our own mental health. Everybody has their own advantages and disadvantages otherwise, but no one has it figured out. And if they tell you they are, they're lying.
real. Actually, I wanted to add like the tiniest bit. I know that I'm here moderating, but this is my first time ever doing this. And I have hosted many events online. Coming to do this in person has been such an interesting experience. I actually told my therapist about it on Tuesday, and she was like, oh, what happens if everything fails and everything is like terrible and awful? Is that gonna make you stop wanting to do it? And I said, no. And she was like, well, there you go. Have a great time. See you when you get back.
We do love to ask those questions.
Yeah, I was like, dang, girl. Anyways, I'll see you next week. But yeah, I think like transitioning from an online space and then going in person, I have generalized anxiety disorder. And so being in front of people is really hard for me. And it's been something that I'm really excited that I can do. And I'm like built my way up thinking about it. I have friends, I have really good support system. And so when it comes to events like this, just like in your own communities and your online spaces, I think it's really important to have a great support system. Try to surround yourself with things that you enjoy, whether it's people or if it's Pokemon or if it's like gacha games or something of the sort. Like bring a little bit of something that you enjoy with you, and because it makes it a lot easier in the long run to just like have helpful reminders. But I also wanted to get Sadare's opinion as well when it comes. I know you're at home, but also like speaking like at an event like this. If you have any other experiences as well, like going in person and having to speak, or in your professional career as well, like what the difference has been between streaming and then also speaking at a panel or just speaking in public.
Yeah, so I've done quite a lot of like scientific conferences. I think the biggest thing for me is that like when you're doing an event online, or like if you're streaming, you know, you see the number of people and you see people in chat, but your brain doesn't necessarily like process it in the same way as when you can physically see those people in the room with you. So like right now, probably like my experience of doing this panel is very different to all of you because like to me, like I can see the number that are on like that are on the Twitch stream. I have no concept of like the actual people in the room. It can make it a little bit more. It can make it a bit more anxiety provoking, but I also really, really enjoy it because it's a chance to actually connect one-on-one with people. Like even if it's in a room, you know, people still might come up to you afterwards and talk to you and ask you questions. And that is something that like you just don't always get necessarily if you're streaming. But on top of that, like I have been to like a few VTuber events as well as like conventions and stuff. And there's kind of like an extra layer when you're a VTuber, right? Because people don't have any conceptualization of what you look like. Like they just kind of see you as your avatar. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think the thing about connecting with other people is the biggest thing for me. Like it's really, really nice to get to actually, like, for example, like meet people whose streams I watch or meet my friends or even occasionally meet a viewer. Like it adds a whole new dimension and it really helps you kind of build an idea in your mind of like the actual people behind the screen, you know? But that, you know, obviously there are kind of things to consider around like, you know, identity management and like, do you even want people to know you're there? Like, for some people, anonymity is really, really important. So, you know, that's kind of, it's an interesting balance to walk as a VTuber, I think.
Thank you. Does anyone have any else to add to that before we go to?
Yeah, I'll just quickly add on.
Of course.
To it. One of the big things, especially IRL, like coming to an IRL event, is knowing that rejection is okay, right? And there are a lot of individuals that are scared of rejection, and it takes a while. It's a mastery of self, and it's a mastery of being able to go ahead and you know, be okay with not being okay, right? Or being okay with not being accepted in some capacity. Events like this, and I love IRL events like this because ultimately, the only thing that's stopping you from connecting with others is yourself, right? And when it comes to rejection, I'll share this little story. I had a social psychology professor that literally took us out. It was like a 5-6 hour class into a club, bar, however you want to label it. And he's like, you have till the end of class and get rejected 100 times.
Oh.
Go. And that taught me a lot about, like, number one, it starts off with the first couple of rejections hurting, and, like, just the same way that our viewers are going to go ahead and reject us in some capacity, or they might really like us, right? First couple of times it hurts. By the 30th time, now you start making a game out of it, and it starts becoming funny. You're like, Maria, ¿por qué? Right? And so you start finding a way to go ahead and not let rejection or the fear of rejection hurt you. So IRL events are wonderful for connection. They're wonderful for establishing that, but don't let yourself be the blocker of you establishing a wonderful friendship or a wonderful connection with other individuals.
What you're saying is it's like a little bit of exposure therapy
A little bit.
for rejection.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's what this is for me right now. Okay, so can you pass do you feel okay with passing the mic behind you? Thank you so much.
Hi, this question's for Ed and our Psyculturist and Angry Owl Cat. Ed, you mentioned at one point having viewers show up in your stream and kind of having an expectation maybe that you could be a psychiatrist for them or a psychologist for them. I think anybody who's streamed has had that dramatic, the individual who is really suffering something right now shows up and just needs to, like, vent on us. Do you have a kind of a healthy, for them and for the streamer, way of setting that boundary, kind of saying, this is beyond Reddit's pay grade, buddy. You need to go get real help, but doing it in a compassionate way? And I'd appreciate some coaching on that.
No, absolutely. Wonderful questions. One of the big things that I always do, they're called doorknob confessions in therapy, right? Which is at the very end of, like, your session, they'll turn around and they'll, like, everything would go good in therapy, and, like, until the very end, and they're like, oh, but then this is all that happened, and then, like, boop, they're out the door, and you're like, well, we'll tackle that next week, right? It's a lot to go ahead and take in, and as a streamer as well, or streamers in general, we get that where random individuals might come into our chat and flood us with, like, well, my dog passed away, and, a list of 1,001 things. The best thing that we can do is acknowledge what is happening in the moment, right, and how you're feeling about it. Because ultimately, how would you feel, and we'll talk about boundary setting with it as well. How would you feel if something really bad happened, you shared it with your favorite streamer, and then you just feel ignored? And that, like, that aspect of not even being acknowledged, it not being cared for, sticks with you, right? And all of a sudden your mental health was here, now it starts plummeting down as well, right? So the quick thing that I do is I always pause and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry that you're going through a rough time. I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm going to give that a little bit of space, but here's some resources for you. And I actually have a command, hashtag or exclamation point support, so that way they can get resources to their area or nationally, whatever that they might need in that regard. And I asked of them, like, again, I'm a psychologist, but I'm not your psychologist. I'm your streamer, I'm not your therapist, right? Make that abundantly clear and be like, there's resources there and that are available for you, and establish that with moderators, so that way you have access to resources that other individuals might need.
I think I can add up to that, because when I only started streaming, I noticed that a lot of streamers had a rule, no sad boys in their chat. And I was like, why? Why sad boys are not welcome? That's like so sad. Where all the sad boys will go? And I put the title of my stream, Sad Boys Are Welcome. And oh my, I regretted it. Because the next day, all of my chat was flooded with, like, different confessions, different, like, stories. And I'm like just playing Honkai Star Rail or Zenless Zone Zero. Guys, I'm like just pulling anime waifus. So at first I was like trying to help, but I'm not a professional psychologist like these guys. And at some point I understood it was too much for me. I could not handle it. So I was like, okay guys, I appreciate you. Especially those who are long-time chatters with whom I feel more connected to, but let's focus on the game. So I also put one of the rules, like no venting, because I understand that I will not be able to help them, and also I don't have the capacity to absorb, well, I will be absorbing all of that pain and I will not feel great, especially when I'm streaming longer hours.
Yeah.
So really quickly, just adding on is, ultimately, please remember to go touch grass, right? Like, there is the ability to go and do so, because there is a loneliness epidemic that is happening. There's a lot of individuals that are very alone and they struggle to connect with others. And unfortunately, sometimes the only way that we're connecting is through online means, right? Discord. Sometimes, you know, only going to Twitch streamer to Twitch streamer or YouTuber or whatever that might be. And unfortunately, that in real life connection is really falling off. So oftentimes what I'm seeing is there are higher rates, and especially in younger adults and adults, of depression. Depression rates are going up. I keep hearing, hey, you know what? If only there was somebody that was actually there and could hear me, somebody that I could connect with, right? And even if for that one moment, this is why I keep saying, please make sure that like you're empathetic. And sometimes I know we're drained, but sometimes just allowing that moment and having that support resource there for them is huge.
Yeah, I was just going to add something on to Alcat. You said earlier you like let people know that the vibe of your stream is like a party. So for me, I let them know that like the vibe of the community is kind of like a cafe. So when you go to a cafe, you might catch up with your friend and tell them how your day was, but if it gets like really intense, you're probably going to be asked to kind of tone it down. Remember that your stream is a public space. It's an online space, but I would set the tone, set the vibe for them. Like this is kind of like it's like a cafe level of intensity. Feel free to talk about your life, you know, connect with your friends, but try to understand that like if you come in and sort of talk a lot about intense issues, you're in earshot of people who might be triggered by that, you know, might feel sensitive to those sorts of things. So just kind of like letting them know what the general vibe is.
And I think every streamer has a different sense for what their space is like. Because I'll be, and you know this, I go very in depth. So some of the questions that I'll ask out there, and trigger warning, right? Nothing bad, but in a way to think about it, it's like, what would your childhood self think of where you are today, right? And we're analyzing some of these characters, and these questions come out. And as you can imagine, now you have an open space, an open invitation to share. Right, so every streamer has a different capacity, and every mental health streamer on here that you see will ask a different question and with different levels of intensity. So,
Thank you so much for your questions. I think we are out of time for Q&A questions. I want to definitely make sure that each of you are able to reintroduce yourselves again, but also tell us where we can find you online. So on Twitch, of course, but anywhere else or any other content that you have that you want us to check out. And we can start with Cider again. Thank you so much for joining us, by the way.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, so I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Psydere, so PSYDERE. I'm actually, ironically, I'm on a little bit of a mental health break at the minute, but Twitch is the main place to find me, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, period. Glad. I also really encourage people to take mental health breaks whenever you need it. I know we've mentioned that multiple times throughout, but there is this whole idea of like, if you miss out on this, it's still really important. Like, you are important. Please take those breaks. But thank you again for being here. I appreciate you. And then,
Yes, Euro Brady. So Euro like the coin, Brady like the bunch. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube.
Psyculturist, as in psychology and culture, mix them together. You can find me pretty much anywhere and everywhere. As long as you type in my name, I'll pop up.
And I'm Angry Owl Cat. Yeah, you can find me on Twitch, obviously, and also Twitter, YouTube. I will be very, very happy to see you guys there.
And then again, I'm Sweet Sage. It has an X in between, so it's Sweet X Sage. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate everybody. And then I'm also going to make sure I grab the mic from you because I will forget. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.